Follow me, Jesus says at the very end of our gospel story today. It's not quite the very last thing that Jesus says in the Gospel of John, but it's close. There remains just one more short scene on the beach in the gospel with Jesus and Peter continuing to talk before the gospel ends. And in that short exchange, additional exchange, Jesus manages to get in one more, follow me. Following Jesus is what Christianity is all about. It is just that simple and just that hard. I've been thinking about following a lot lately, not for the first time. I took up social swing dancing a couple of years ago, and it has taught me a lot about the dynamics and the skills involved in both following and leading. Like other forms of social dance, swing involves two distinct roles, lead and follow. Solo dancing is, of course, possible, and it is done even at social dances, but the heart of the form is communal and relational. It's about connecting and moving with another human. For the first 2.5 years of taking classes in social dancing, I almost exclusively learned the follow role. It meant learning how to connect so that the lead could do their part and the dance could take shape. And it's important to note that the dance is the point. Neither lead nor follow are much of anything without the other. Both follow and lead are responsible, equally responsible for the dance, or at least so I've been taught. That responsibility plays out differently in the different roles, but in that community, no finger pointing is tolerated. The finger pointing of, you didn't follow correctly, or you didn't lead that right. Both are overtly described as pretty much just being a jerk. And not being a jerk is one of the few rules in the community. Learning to follow means learning the basics of the dance, keeping your feet going, ideally in the correct rhythm and pattern, and paying attention to the physical cues of the lead when they initiate a move. One of the hardest parts is not anticipating what the lead might do, when they might lead a move or what it might be. Instead, just keeping on doing the basic step until something changes. It is an imperfect science, to say the least. And indeed, it is not science at all. It is art, created spontaneously in relationship, with all the joy and discomfort and awkwardness, mistakes and miscommunication that implies. In recent months, I've gone back to the beginning and started to learn the lead role. The dance is the same, but each role is so distinct that it's almost like learning a different dance. What has stood out to me the most is just how hard it is for the follows. As a lead, I experience the resistance and anxiety of follows new to social dance. As humans, we want so much to be in control, to know what's coming, to be in charge, or at the very least, to be independent. The idea of letting another human direct your movement, your very body, is almost anathema in our culture. Following well, I've realized, is a very particular skill, one that we are not taught well in life, if we are taught it at all. And I've come to think that it is deeply countercultural. Especially in recent years, we are taught overtly not to trust anyone, particularly anyone in official or formal leadership. Do your own research has become a clarion call for everyone to be their own expert about pretty much everything. These societal dynamics are, of course, a backlash to the real and perceived experience of following and leading. The word submission comes to mind. Wives, submit to your husband, the Bible says. Slaves, submit to your masters. The primacy of dominating power as leadership is even biblical. even if it is not right. One of the most important things that I have learned in swing dancing, though, is that good following is not submission. Far from it. Follows are overtly taught defensive strategies to avoid being hurt or hurting someone, even accidentally. And more, everyone is taught that dance is a conversation. There are two roles, but one dance. And that might mean that the lead starts a move, the follow finishes it, not necessarily how the lead expected. As following is not submission, leading is not control. Everyone has agency, the power to make choices, to shape and contribute to the dance. At its best, this results in a thing of beauty, a joyful experience of glorying in the unexpected for lead and follow alike. Follow me, Jesus says at the end of our gospel story today. The command comes after Jesus has wrapped up a longer conversation, saying, "Truly, I tell you," Jesus concludes that conversation, "when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." It might be the most backwards and upside down of Jesus' upside down and backwards teaching and example. When you're younger, you need to learn independence. When you grow old, you need to learn to follow. It's not leadership that's reserved for elders, it's followership. The maturity of faith is stretching out your hands, letting go of control, and going where you are taken, even if it is where you do not wish to go. More than a decade ago, spiritual guru and Franciscan monk Father Richard Rohr wrote about these dynamics in his best-selling book, Falling Upward, A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life. The first life task Rohr describes is to build a strong container or identity. The second is to find the contents that the container was meant to hold. The first half of life is about defining who you are and striving for success in all the kind of usual cultural measures. The second part comes to us, usually through suffering, when our container falls apart and we live into a deeper and fuller life. Rohr describes it as falling upward and outward into a broader and deeper world where the soul has found its fullness, is finally connected to the whole, and lives inside the big picture. What looks and feels like loss from the perspective of the first half of life ends up being experienced as gain. It's stretching out your hands and being taken where you do not wish to go, and yet experiencing it as the fullness of love and joy and peace. The key is learning to follow God's lead. Follow me, Jesus commands at the beginning of the gospel and at the end, that we may dance together our whole lives long.